Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. She has competed and wrestled for numerous wrestling promotions over the years. Pleased to welcome the one, the only Heidi Lee Morgan. Welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you so very, very much. I'm glad that I have the opportunity, and I love the fact of modern technology where although you guys are in Tennessee and I am on the East Coast, we're able to navigate this. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about your childhood. Where are you from?
Originally, I am from the state of New Jersey. I have a Southern twang, as you might be able to pick up. And that is because as a little girl, we moved to Tennessee when I was around the age of 7. And we lived there predominantly for about, I would say, till I was 9 years of age, 9.5 actually. And so it was enough time for me to pick up the Southern drawl and to keep it with me. And but yes, my parents were very eclectic. We had an incredible childhood. My sister, brother, and I were raised on in New Jersey, in Burlington, New Jersey, on a zoo. My parents we had lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, the joke is. But we were raised with animals. We had lion cubs, bear cubs, and unfortunately, a tragedy happened where our zoo was. An arson happened. They did catch the person that did it, but unfortunately, we lost 158 animals, and it was very heartbreaking. And from that vantage point, because my parents were so dismayed and very heartbroken, they decided to venture out into another part of the country. And they were always workaholics, always in their having their own business, and that is what took us to Tennessee. They purchased a hotel, and in Red Boiling Springs, my sister and I went back. It will be 2 Septembers, September 2023. We had gone back to backtrack our trails as a child, as our children, as part of our childhood. And the Cloyd Hotel is still there. It's on the most haunting of paranormals on spirits that roam the facility. And yes, it happened when we were there as well. But so from there, we bought the hotel. Unfortunately, my parents were not successful with it. It went bankrupt, and we stayed on the outskirts of Hendersonville waiting for the court case to come up, and met some incredible people in that area. And unfortunately, it ended up with more tragedy where my brother was killed in a terrible car
I'm so
accident. It
sorry.
was a hit. Yes, he was hit and killed. Purely an accident. There for the grace of God go any of us. I witnessed the whole thing, so I have a different outtake on marijuana smoking as opposed to what the rest of the world does, because although marijuana does not make you a negative individual, it does hinder your driving. The girl that killed my brother was high as a kite, and and they proved that she was high as a kite, and she was only 16 as a child. So her life was forever changed as well as ours. So I do have a different outtake, like I said, on the usage of marijuana, unlike everybody else in this world, because of what I personally witnessed and know that it can take a person's life. So you fast forward, My folks moved back. Parents never recover from losing a child. So my parents did not have it the easiest. But they made the best out of it for my sister and I. And, we made the best out of our life. And I am a second generation wrestler. He was a weekend warrior in the 70s. He was the original Little Abner. And my sister and I and my brother, we would play around with Gorilla Monsoon's children in the ring, Chief Jay Strongbow's kids. And like I said, back in that generation, it was weekend warrior. It wasn't a full time gig. The wrestlers did it part time, and it was more of a love than them trying to make a living out of it. And, my dad he was a big time wrestling fan and fanatic, but he liked being around his family and making money and didn't like being away from us. So that kind of opened up the opportunity for me in the 80s to partake in wrestling because of the opportunity came in 1985. I was competing for bodybuilding, and we had gone to Vince McMahon to use Paul Orndorff as a spokesperson. That was the year WrestleMania popped. Vince asked me in his office, and I was only 19 years of age, would I be interested in wrestling? And I chuckled and I said, no. He says, yeah, but you're a second generation. I said, yeah, but I don't want to do it. It's not what I want to do with my life. I want to compete. I like bodybuilding. I like lifting weights. I like putting things up, picking them up, putting them down. That was what I enjoyed doing. And nevertheless, he still offered me to do bodybuilding exhibitions in between the matches. And I did. I agreed. So my mother came with me to several of the exhibitions. And the first exhibition was at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, which is since torn down and another facility has been put up in place. But there were 30,000 people, full card. Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Miss Elizabeth, I shared a room with them. And from that vantage point, I shared a room 4 other times with those two up and down the East Coast because they would bring me in like once or twice a month to Boston, to Pittsburgh, to Merlin's to perform and the same exhibition that I did in Philly, a 90-second exhibition with the bodybuilding. And I guess around April, my mother had been on the phone with one of the marketing directors. His name was Mark. And Mark kept on asking, would I be interested in wrestling? And I finally said yes. And when I did say yes, that is when my journey stopped with them, which is kind of sad. But I had to go to wrestling school, which was Fabulous Moolah School in South Carolina, and it would take me 7 years to get back to the WWE because now I had to put in my apprenticeship. Whereas had I stayed the route I was going, I would have definitely I learned how to work an audience, entertain a crowd, not be scared of 30,000 people plus, because I definitely wasn't at the age of 19 years of age. But I was not learning the wrestling technique, the skill, the craftsmanship behind. And back then, I think had I not chosen the path I did, I don't think the ladies in the industry would have been as it's a respect thing. So they respected the fact that instead of me taking the easy way, which would have been just staying with the bodybuilding, because I already had the in there, I could have stayed that route and just been a valet, and then that could have led into, another year or two of me wrestling. But then you wouldn't have the respect of the women that were in the industry, and that was important to me. So I chose the path less chosen. And I might have not finished my career as a WWE champion, but I can honestly say at least I left with integrity, my morals and my values, and I didn't sell my soul. And the women that helped make me, because you don't make yourself in this sport, you are you're helped along the way. You have to have the talent, obviously, but we all need each other, right? And I attribute to my talent and my knowledge because of all the incredible workers I was blessed to work with. And yeah, that was my journey.
Yeah, I mean, it is so hard to really break in the industry, like you had mentioned, like you talked
Hmm.
about, started as a bodybuilder. Some people, do the modeling thing or dancing, and it really is challenging because it's another form of physicality that your body is just not used to. Um, did you had mentioned your dad was a wrestler as well. Did you watch some of his matches to get a feel
Oh, yeah.
for?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there wasn't, listen, I was one of these children that was a daredevil. And even when my sister and I journeyed back to Tennessee to go to our old stomping grounds, when we stopped into Hendersonville, we visited three families that were very dear to us. And the Greaves, the Wards, very, very dear, and the Scots, very, very dear to us and very, very compassionate, because we happened to live in Tennessee at a time where certain parts of Tennessee still believed in the Civil War. And we were Yankees, and they treated us that way. And we learned what prejudice was at the fullest extent. But then when we moved to Hendersonville, we learned that there were just as many people that were compassionate. And what was brought to my attention, which I didn't realize, was I was always a very create, courageous and daredevil as a child. I was very tiny, I was scroungy, and I'm not picking on myself. I'm just talking about the words that were always reflected back at me as a child, that you're too small, you're too scroungy, you're going to get hurt. And it just created such a flame within inside of my soul that I'm like, no, I'm not. I can jump off the building. And you don't realize, but there are times that you can either use it as a crutch, or you can be a victim or victorious. And I chose to use it as a victorious behavior, because as kids growing up, we would be in the ring, and my siblings would say, Heidi, come here, and we'd get into the turnbuckle, and they're like, okay, now do a monkey flip. And I would do a monkey flip because I was a gymnast. I just naturally, had never had any fear, so I was a gymnast. And so I would stand up on the top rope and just do flips just because. And my sister and brother would be like, okay, we're going to catch you. And I believed them. Like as a 5-year old, I'm like, okay, my sister and brother aren't going to lie to me. And I got to say, my sister and brother were always there where they would catch me for the crossbody. If I spun, if I did a backflip. And as a kid, we were just having fun being kids, emulating, some of the stuff that we would see uh, the wrestlers do off of the ropes, or and back then they didn't do a lot of aerials. They did more mechanical, which was really cool and impressive as well. But I liked always doing, even at the age of 5 or 6, I loved climbing up the ropes and just jumping off and doing a crossbody or doing a drop kick. I remember the one time my sister told me, it was me and her against Joey Morelli and my brother. We were tag teaming against them, and we were playing, and my sister said, climb up the rope and kick them, a drop kick off the top rope. So here I go to do the drop kick, and I did a drop kick on Joey Morelli. And of course, after I drop kicked him, my sister covered him and pinned him for the win. But it was just like, this is how we were raised. It was just like, for us, it was no big deal. We just, it was just, oh, this is our life, because that's what you're used to. It's like a kid, if they're raised with dirt bikes, they're used to jumping over ramps because that's what they're used to. So we were used to it. And, my parents were young parents, and they never told us that we couldn't do it. They would just tell us, if any one of it, they would say, if you get hurt, I don't want to hear about it. So we all knew that if we got hurt, we weren't allowed to cry.
Well, it seems all the gymnastics and everything help prepare you for the career in the wrestling business because it's so much athleticism involved and you're used to it.
Yes, and that is what I'd have to say. I was blessed to be invited back last year to WrestleMania because they were in the Philadelphia area. And Bull Nakano, my nemesis, was inducted in WWE Hall of Fame. So I was able to see my generation of women wrestlers, and then the women after me. They really didn't have too many women before me, other than my girl Wendy Richter, who I do see often, anyhow, in the industry. But be that as it may, Judy and Leilani should have been there. They weren't there. And Velvet. There's just a whole bunch of women that should have been there. They weren't. I know that WWE is making the best possible from the wrongs in the past, and I commend them for all of that because I'm appreciative that they're trying to respect the women in the industry, um, and trying not to forget them, right? But what I appreciated coming back to the 40th anniversary was several things. Watching the show, I realized a long time ago, being involved with it, we were walking stunt people. You cannot have any fear at all. Um, After I became a mother, my whole hormonal system changed, where that adrenaline within my body changed on having a fear factor, which is how I broke my back in 1997, because all I was worried about was who was going to take care of my 2 year old. And because at the time my daughter had just turned two. And that can do more damage to any of the wrestlers in the sport than help them. So you cannot have any fear. All of everything I've done in my past has led me to this point of life. So if God see, and I'm a firm believer in Christ and God, so forgive me for that. I curse like a sailor. Didn't say I was perfect. However, God God has plans for us, and there's Y's in the road, and you have a choice on what side of the Y you're going to take, the right side or the left side. Now, let's just say God wants you to take the left, but you take the right side. You're going to navigate and be lost on this journey for a while, but then there's another Y that always comes back. And eventually, if you get your crap together, you'll come back to the end result that God wants if you listen and remain still and remain faithful. And God knew I was a child that could not now, like, if I could just go back to school to take the courses I wanted to take with physical therapy and none of the other bullcrap subjects, I would have a doctorate's degree 10 times over because I truly love the industry I'm in. But what God did for me was everything that I did. Yes, it was school of hard knocks, but not in a negative, because it was my destiny, because I was able to navigate easily. If it's a gift that you are given naturally, it will come naturally. You have to work for it, but you won't have to fight and struggle for it. Just like what I do now as a living, I don't have to fight and struggle, but I do have to work for it. Every day is work. Every day I'm staying on top of my craft. When I entered the world of wrestling, I don't get offended. There's some women that were really offended for me last year that I was overlooked, that I was this or that I was that. And I'm like, I I don't have that persona for myself. And I'm humbled that other women uh, are offended for me, that I was overlooked and that I was not this or that, not that. But it's choices that we make that I felt more comfortable with the choices I chose in the industry to take for my morals, for my values, and for my personal beliefs. And because of that, I would do it again. But everything I've done in my life with my gymnastics, being a second generation wrestler, goofing off in the ring with my siblings, uh, going to it all comes out at the end of the day on your craft. And I just, you couldn't put a price on the knowledge, on all the incredible people that have worked with me in the industry to get me to where I'm at, or to get me to where I I became in the industry. And yeah, but these women, these men, I was watching, and me and Alundra's husband, we were like, ooh, just enjoying being fans, and just so impressed that these, at any given time, their whole career could be taken from them, any one of these wrestlers. So everyone sees the glory side on where they're at right now, making it to the big time, but they don't see the struggle and how hard it is to
Mm-hmm.
get there. And a lot of them, they're putting their body on a daily basis. Yeah, they're putting it at a
It's
great
hard
pace.
work.
It is hard. It's hard physical work. That's why so many, if you look at the statistics, there's a lot of them that are on pain medication, pain therapy. There's a lot of them that had hip surgery, because of their love of the sport, on giving what every last morsel of their body. Like I said, I broke my back for Alpha and Sika's a show for them at Hazel, Pennsylvania. I was wrestling a new individual, and we had gone over some stuff with the match. Should have been a clean match. And as soon as the bell rang, she panicked in front of people. She, like, people get like starstruck. They get scared when they're in front of an audience, and she got scared, which was enough time to hesitate, which is what broke my back because of that hesitation. And I'm grateful for the way my back broke, because it broke away three vertebrae, two, uh, lower T and L, uh, broke. If you looked at my spinal column and looked at my nervous system and look at my vertebrae, it was a perfect L break away from
Ugh.
my spinal column. Had it gone the other way, I would have been a paraplegic. So you cannot take any of that for granted. 7 years of going through physical therapy, medication. 7 years later, I had to have major back surgery, and it gave me life. It gave me life all over again. God gave me a second chance on being able to move, staying active, being able to live, being able to educate people on how to move, which is now where I'm at with my life. Because again, those doors happen for a reason. I broke my back so that way I can help somebody move. I had double shoulder surgery so I can help somebody that has frozen shoulder syndrome, because I've been through it. And instead of me going through college, I went through the other course selections that I did in the industry I'm in with fitness and movement, to help people move. And again, it's life lessons that have gotten me to where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, pro wrestling, there's a lot of sacrifice involved, and the training process is intense, and you're describing it. I mean, this is not ballet. This is not uh, anything you've ever really seen before. This is really intense workouts and drills. Uh, and I'd imagine for you, it was just so, so hard because they're putting you through the ringer, and then you have your matches, and you got to get through them, and the travel, and it's everything. It just so much is involved at one time. It's like a perfect storm.
It is a perfect storm, and there's a show on right now. I forget what channel, but the Undertaker Mark is on it.
LFG, yes.
Yes, and it's really good. It's really you know what I appreciate right now, and I don't know if you can look at it from that point of view. As I was growing up in the industry, there were many wrestlers that were in their age of 50, 60, and I'm going to be 59. I'm not ashamed to say what age I'm going to be. So I'm going to be a young 59, and it's okay if you still want to take bumps and you want to wrestle. But it seemed like there were more when I was 30 years of age at 28, 29, and I was still wrestling before I hung my boots up. Um, and there were a lot of people in their 50s, 60, mid 50s, early 60s that were still title holders, were still name drawers. And now I look at it and I see Triple H, I see Shawn Michaels, I see The Undertaker. And Triple H and Shawn are my age. Mick Foley is my age. We're like around 59, 60. And what I appreciate is these individuals now, instead of them taking the bumps, they're passing the torch. And I commend them. And I'm more impressed now, like the last year and a half, watching it as opposed to like the different decades because just the exploitation and stuff. And I get it. I'm not going to pick on anybody. We're not here to do that. That's not what I'm here to do. Everything has a season. There's a reason, and God bless, and you evolve going forward, right? And I think one of the things I really appreciate now is these individuals realize, hey, this is a young person's sport. They're stepping to the side like a pro football player, that even the pro football players know that at 50 you should be commentary. You should not be taking bumps. You should not be throwing the football. It's not to say you can't throw a football. It's not to say you can't pass the football. It's just saying it's a young person's sport. And I think I appreciate that more now that at least this is what I'm recognizing, is what the the generation that I wrestled with, that's what these guys are doing. And I mean, they might take a bump here or there, they might be doing an angle here and there, but it's not about their story. It's not their storyline. They pass the torch off to the younger generation. And the younger generation, it's just like I said to the women I worked with, you can't get mad at the young ladies that are now making, like, they're making $300,000 a year, $400,000 a year. I mean, my generation wishes that they made that. We did pretty good because we could, we all stuck together in my generation.
Sisterhood.
Yeah, we stuck together. So none of us went anywhere for under $150. Like, if you did not pay us $150, we didn't care it was independent. We weren't going, period. You know? And they don't have that leverage to do that today. They have to get on these cards, work for nothing, take a chance on breaking their back, their hip, their knee, blowing out an AC joint. God only knows, screwing up your ankle, popping a shoulder, whatever, just to sell a couple of pictures to get gas money, hoping that your apprenticeship is you're going to get more work out of it. You're going to craft your profession and hope for that opportunity in 3 years to work with WWE, because that's the ultimate goal, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
they're the top of the line. And when you do, it's so surreal because now you are paid what you should be getting, but you're also getting paid for what could happen, because at a blink of an eye, your career could be taken. And you know that. You've heard some horrific stories,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, but anybody that's in the wrestling industry, honestly, could honestly just be a professional, a stunt person. the stuff they pull off is just incredible. Just incredible.
And I also want to add too, um, the market for women's wrestling, the demand for women's wrestling has grown exponentially, I feel like, over the last several years, to the
Agreed.
point where you've got a new fan base.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. This is where the beauty of evolution comes in. And this is where I tell my generation, because I was the last of the mullahs. I was the last of the Mohicans at a mullah school. And I will always be remembered for that, even if I didn't have a belt, because of where I came from, right?
Hmm.
Who helped create me, right? Who helped me to be a good wrestler? I had a lot of incredible, talented women. Even Debbie comes from your neck of the woods. I was so blessed to be able to work independently on the circuits and pick her brain. And that's how you learn, right? Asking
Hmm.
to spar with these people to get educated, to become a better worker. You don't get better just talking about it. You only get better by performing and working with each other. And I was so lucky that I had these opportunities in the industry. But what I will say is, there was the time and era of the Generation X with WWE that the lack of respect for the women was horrific. And I thankfully see, God does things for reasons, right? So I was fortunate enough where I had to bail out because I didn't have to, I chose to. I chose to bail out because I was pregnant. And my daughter, 30 years old, I will not ever, like, if I had to do it again, I would do it all over again, the same exact way. I would bail out for my baby girl because I only have one. And so that was my exiting. I exited from that. And then, unfortunately, the reason why I was working for Alpha was to polish me back up again, to bring me back to WWE, because he was the connection to WWE during that era in 97 still. He had a very good rapport, and they said, hey, Pat Patterson said, hey, work with her. So I was working with him, did some house shots with him from September to December. Just weekend stuff, nothing too much taken away from, because I didn't want to take too much away from my little girl. And then here I break my back, and that was God saying, nope, you're done. And that's it. So thank God maybe that did happen, because then shortly right after is when they started going crazy with the bra and panty matches. You know, I can't just blame the storyline, because it takes two to tango. So to play 100% victim, I have issues with people that want to play 100% victim, because I was in the industry, and if I did not want to do anything, Heidi did not do it. So no dollar bill and no belt was ever worth me saying, okay, well, I guess I'll go in my bra and panties because they're going to fire me. No, we have choices. And I don't mean any negativity about this. And I don't care if I piss anybody off. We're all grown women. Okay. We have choices. Okay. If you want a payday, you were going to do that. If you didn't want that payday, you weren't going to do that, because they would find somebody that would be willing to do that. Okay. Because there's always somebody, like J. Edgar Hoover said trillions of years ago, people can always be bought: sex, drugs, or money. All right. And one of them is going to make you cave. So whether the women that were there that did the TNA for them were exploited, it's a two-way street, because exploitation does not happen without permission. And I'm a female. I have a woman's talk show. I don't care who I'm pissing off. We have a voice to say no. Now, does that mean you might not make a paycheck? Yeah. Was I a champion? Let's look at my history. Was I a champion for WWE? No. But what do I have? I have my integrity. And that's what you have to look at. His daughter comes along at the end of all of this schmealing going on. Listen, she fell into the sink with the soap opera too, with, them pretending she was all drunk and got her hooked up with Triple H and all this other stuff, the storylines, because it's a storyline. You can't live it though, right? You have to say at the end of the day, this is it. This is the storyline. The storyline's done. Let's move on with life. And that was the error. That was the error on on the women back then with the bra and panty matches, the this and that. And whatever the reason was, the rhyme, they sold tickets, they made money, everybody made money, everybody was working, but at what price, right? And then the lawsuits start coming out, and then Stephanie McMahon, this is where I really feel, thank God Vince had a daughter involved in the sport, saying, yo, like, this ain't cool. Like, we're gonna have kids. I'm gonna have, what happens if I have girls? Or, I don't, your per- perception changes. What your thought is at 20 changes at 30. What your thought is at 30 changes at 40. And now she's coming up, and she's seeing, and she's like, this isn't cool. Like, we have a bigger stage and more people to, like, we really need to work on this. And then she saw with her friends that were female wrestlers a little bit of unfairness going on, that I would really love to think that Stephanie McMahon and her input, being a female, has really helped shape and mold the reputation that the women have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing because it's evolution, and they're at a spot that they've worked for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the young ladies that are involved, they have worked very hard. The women prior to my generation, before me, they set the pathway,
Pave the
for
way.
these young ladies. They absolutely did.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, without that, um they wouldn't be where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, you have to be grateful for that. And like I said, the young ladies that I had the opportunity to meet at WrestleMania, they understand that. The one young lady had the opportunity, she's from Texas, had the opportunity, she went to college to play women's basketball. She was offered to be on a pro team making $45,000 a year. She had been wrestling part time for 3 years in the interim, going through college, um, weekend warrior. Opportunity to came. She signed on with WWE as when they're in the territory to use her. And here, voila, she's now one of their big names. She says, Heidi, she said, you know, she says, I had a college degree. Do you understand? She said, a college degree, and they only wanted to pay me $40,000 a year, and they owned me. And then on top of that, I'd have to get a side hustle. And she's like, and my contract with WWE just to show up is 100,000 a year. She says, do you know that women's wrestling is the highest paid athletic sport in the United States? How sad is that? These women that have college educations, getting offered for WBA is only 40,000 a year,
Wow.
right? I mean, you know, did it get her a free college education? Yes, she paid a piece. She got her education. She's got her degree in marketing. Smart young lady, but she gets it. She absolutely gets it. She appreciates it, because she knows that this time frame too is not it's not a lifetime. I mean, you can be in the industry a lifetime, because it is what you're supposed to do. It's your destiny, right? The
Hmm.
Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Hogan, these gentlemen that have been in forever. It is their life. They eat, sleep, breathe it, and rightfully so. Just like a football player, they eat, sleep, breathe it. When they're done, they hang up their cleats and then they become a commentator, right?
Hmm.
And so a lot of the young women that I had the opportunity to speak with understand that it's a short window as far as the physical aspect is concerned. And then it's what they can do with that and how they can still continue to make a difference and pass it forward.
Yes, and I hopefully will continue to grow because
Absolutely.
it's really at its highest right now, and it's going to continue to the bar is going to even continue to get high in the years to come. But I want to go back to you in your career. You gotten to work against so many different opponents over the course of your time in the business. Who are some of your favorite opponents that you got to wrestle against?
Oh my gosh. All right. So I love wrestling against Wendy. That is when I had to be a heel, a bad guy.
Hmm.
And Wendy just made it so easy to be a bad guy. And she was phenomenal, just an incredible worker. I enjoyed tag teaming up with Misty Blue against uh, the Glamour Girls, Judy and Leilani. We had some incredible feuds against them that I can just I still chuckle at some of the matches that we had because they were fun. I
Hmm.
mean, there's always a blooper, or there will be flub ups, but it was fun. It's like dancing if you're, to work the crowd and to work against such skilled people. I also enjoyed working against Bad, Black, and Beautiful, which was Jean Kirkland and Mary Fryer, with me and Misty. I loved working against Rusty the Fox Thomas and Peggy Lee Leather. Had some incredible single matches with both of them and phenomenal matches. Debbie Combs. I I mean, they were just all of them were like dancing. Um, there were maybe a handful of people I wrestled maybe once or twice, that were weekend warriors or territory girls. Um, and I never really had an opportunity to really see them again. But by far, they are the ones that I mentioned were a couple of my favorites
Yeah.
by far. Yeah.
You had mentioned teaming up with Misty Blue Sims. What was it like being around her?
Actually, it was okay. So it's funny because her and our paths crossed again this past last year in August. She finally made her very first autograph debut because what she had explained to me was she said, everybody that's in the sport, they ate, slept, and breathed it. Yeah, she says, you were second generation, so you kind of knew people. She says, so you kind of stayed in and out because you were a second generation. She says, but she says, unfortunately for me, the opportunity came where our paths crossed. Killer Kowalski, and he saw that we were putting on a boxing tournament and says, hey, you can make more money wrestling. And she says, because we saw him at a fair. And she says, the next thing me and my girls are going to Kowalski's learning how to wrestle. She says, but I didn't, it wasn't her first love per se. She says, so she doesn't, she says I said, you shouldn't feel guilty because I said, you paved the way for so many women in this sport that she sells herself short with that. But she looked at it that was just a journey in her life, and
Hmm.
the opportunity came and she tried to take full advantage of it in a positive way that she could you
Yeah.
know yep.
You also you'd mentioned her a little bit ago, you got to work against Medusa with
Yes, a lot.
WWE.
Yes. Her and I had some incredible feuds. So I had the opportunity to work with her initially and Debbie Combs for at the Showboat for AWA.
Mm.
And that is when I met Madusa the first time, which was, I think it was December of 1987 going into 88. And I had the opportunity of our paths crossing. I got to my path crossed with Debbie as well. And it started a really nice friendship and a feud, of course. And then Madusa and I went up and down. We were Minneapolis, Minnesota area, South Dakota, North Dakota for AWA. And then they came out to the East Coast, and I got to work with her some more here. And then she was contracted with Japan, and other stuff was happening here. And then finally, our paths crossed again with LPWA and with WWE with the Women's Championship out. And yeah, just had some really incredible matches with her. I really enjoyed tagging with her at the end. We were building something really nice, and then I got pregnant, and it kind of just like I kind of felt bad. And she's like, "Don't feel bad because you were told you couldn't have a baby." And some of us women in the sport, give up our personal life just to chase the dream, right? It makes me
Mm-hmm.
want to cry because these women have really given up so much. And she says, don't ever apologize for choosing a baby, And but I also knew that me choosing to be a mommy would affect the angle we were working, because we were really we just started like the momentum going against Luna and Bull with building up, this incredible tag team that we were doing. And we were just jiving so well that, what are you going to do? Happy
It's
memories, very good memories. I really enjoyed our time together. She was a lot of fun to travel with too. Oh, the trouble we would get into.
any fun stories you want to
Oh
share?
God! Oh, we were wrestling against Bull and Luna the one night in Wisconsin. This was for WWE, and so we had eaten at a Perkins, and this cutie patootie was hitting on me, because I was cute. Once I was cute, right? And he's like, "I'm in a band," and I'm like, "Okay." Like that stuff really doesn't. And Medusa's like, "Oh, well, and he plays grunge music, and she's like, "Oh, well, we're at." And she's asking for me because he's trying to hit on me, and I'm too stupid to see this. And he says, "Oh, we're gonna be," and she's like, "Oh," so he says, "Well, here, Heidi, here's my card," and he gives me his card. And Medusa's like, "Oh, you're gonna have a date." So I'm like, whatever. So we go and we wrestle that night. And I put on this really cute. Now I've never been to a grunge concert, right? Not realizing you should really be in a pair of jeans, right? Rocker
Mm-hmm.
clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this really cute, sexy skin tight, because that was the generation. I had
Mm-hmm.
this really cute skin tight black dress on. And we go to this nightclub, and he's like waving to us, and we come over, and he's like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go on." And I said, "Okay." So Medusa grabs herself a beer. I don't really drink beers. I like sweet drinks, so I forget what I even grabbed. I think it was a rum and Diet Coke. So I grabbed my rum and Diet Coke. Medusa's in these cute jeans and a jean jacket, and here I am in this cute little like ready for nightclubbing, not moshing. And all of a sudden he goes on, and the head's banging. Right? All of a sudden, bodies are banging. And this is before they started punching each other. They would do the body slamming.
Mm-hmm.
No fists were thrown yet. It was
Mm-hmm.
just strictly body slamming, chest pounding, right? So here they're chest pounding. And Medusa is leaning, Alundra Blaze is leaning against one of the main support beams, drinking her brewski. And I'm just looking at my jaws I'm like, oh my God. And she's looking at me, just nodding her head, holding up her brewski. And I'm stepping over all these bodies, right? Because all these bodies are being thrown all over the place. We laughed so hard that when we got into the car to go back to the hotel that night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Whatever. And she's like, whatever happened to Heidi Lee Morgan? She hung up her boots to learn how to grunge. It was one of the best highlighted times of our outing with WWE. It was just, oh my God, it was so entertaining.
That is
Yeah,
so cool, though.
yeah,
Being able
yeah.
to go to a concert and
Oh yeah, it was a rock out. It's just so funny how everything evolves. I'm just thinking back then that's when they were doing chest to chest. Now they throw punches, right?
yes, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of the ring. I know you've done a lot of charity work, been involved with various organizations. Tell me about some of the stuff that you've gotten to help out with over the years.
Oh gosh. So for the last 40 years, when through wrestling, I worked with the Dare the MAD Moms Against Drunk Drivers with the Carlisle County District of Pennsylvania for 2 years. 2 years in a row, I did that. We would go up from it would be 2 days a week, September, October, November, all the way up until April. Uh, so it was always Monday, Tuesday. I would come home Tuesday night. The organization would put me up in a hotel. We would do 4 schools, two on Monday, two on Tuesday, and then I'd come home, and I did get compensated for it. Was very grateful because I told the story about how my brother got killed by a person that was high. And although the drug is not an evil drug, it's something that if you have to use it because of medicinal issues, you need to stay at home and do it. And so I had the opportunity of being able to work with the MAD program there, as well as working with the New Jersey State Troopers in 1987, 88, and 89. And they gave me an award, which I cherish to this day, on
Congratulations.
self-defense, women in self-defense for 1987, 88, and 80. Yeah, 1987, 88, and 89. Around December, the state trooper department contacted me and asked me would I work with their officers on women in self-defense. And because I was a local celebrity with the wrestling, and they thought it would help to see, and then my size, because I wasn't very big. Um, yeah, I did, and I did it with high honors. And then through the past, we just did American Heart Association. I work with American Heart Association now since 1998. Currently, where when I was working with the school system as a physical education teacher with little kids, we did American Heart Hoop for Heart,
Yep,
and then we did
jump
jump
rope for
ropes.
heart.
Yeah, jump rope for heart,
Hmm.
and then our school would give a donation. And then this year, my facility, I work for Planet Fitness Corporation. The owner I work for is National Fitness Partners out of Keystone, Pennsylvania. They just bought us out. And the other bosses were the Art Thomas brothers, beautiful people. Anyhow, I've been with Planet 8 years now. And what we do is we are involved with American Heart Association. We just had 4 of our treadmills, a huge participation, where out of the 180 facilities that we're part of, we actually beat the 180 because of our participation on supporting American Heart. And we also support the Boys and Girls Club of New Jersey. I've been involved with them before I even started with Planet Fitness, volunteering my time initially we were volunteering our time in May and June of 2016 all the way up until 2019. Well, when the pandemic happened and then it stopped, we would go for every Wednesday for an hour and work with the kids that would come after school there on fitness and moving, just moving, doing boot camp style workouts. That way they don't get bored, they would have fun. And also supporting by doing the mile walk and the run. And I do have a talk show as well as what I do with Planet
Yeah,
Fitness.
talk about that.
Yeah, so the talk show, I have women on that. I have a lot of women that today my guest was Liz Sui. She's a musician. We let her play she dropped a song called Body Image. So we played that on the station. But I have women telling about their truth, their story on their trials and tribulations. I had a clam digger on my show. I've had the first African judge of New Jersey. She was on my show, and it's basically I sit and it's like having a cup of coffee or just like I am talking with you, and we're conversating about what they do for a living, how they got there, their trials, their tribulations, because we all go through something.
Hmm.
And I learn, and these are just a couple of things that I am and I do a lot of stuff. Yeah, I do. I was just thinking I've done some stuff for the local my I'm in the Vineland district, so I've worked with the school systems on movement, the importance of movement with the kids. I've worked with the pre-K and the kindergartners in the different school systems. When I'm not at Planet, I go for an hour and say, hey, okay, and then explain the importance of moving and why. And then they participate as well. So it's a constantly, we're all here to help each other, right?
Hmm.
Whether we're lesson or blessing. I want to be a blessing to people. I don't want to have to be that lesson.
Yes. What is your favorite part about working with kids? Because it seems like you've been involved with the school system for a while, quite a
Um,
while.
so I think with me with children, what children are children are like cats. They're not easily entertained. You have to earn their trust. I really firmly believe that. I'm glad you actually asked this. I think when it comes to children, from my observation on the end that I get to work with them because I get to do the fun stuff, right?
Mhm.
When they realize that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still have fun and move and not be judged for it. I think, and you see the light bulb going off. Or when I would teach phys ed, I literally had a very good curriculum. And if you were a student in my class, and you were in seventh and eighth grade, you were taking a written test on the human body and you had to pass it. If you were in fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, you took a written test once a year on primary sports, soccer, hockey, basketball, because even if you don't want to play these sports, you might want to be a journalist. And I would explain this to the students coming in. Even if you can't stand playing an organized sport, you might want to be a writer. You need to know about this. You
Mhm.
need to know the fundamental. Even if you never play it ever again, you have to know this. And then what I would observe, and I worked harder with the children that did not like organized sports or did not like gym. They thought they didn't like gym, right? Physical education. And it's not that they didn't like physical education, they didn't like orthodox physical education. They didn't like organized basketball. They didn't like organized soccer. They didn't like organized softball because now you have to be a Janie jock or a Joey jock. And I understand where they're coming from. that those things always came easy to me. So it was my responsibility to take this sport or activity, teaching them functional movement, hand-eye coordination, agility, stamina, endurance. There's so much more involved than just dribbling a ball and shooting a basket, right? And then I would break it down and say, this is why you're doing it. And then I would take literally, we would play big ball, kickball. And it's, the stability balls that everyone, well,
Hmm.
picture one of those three times the size, right? A great big ball. And, I was fortunate enough, I was blessed by priests that work with me, a good administration. They gave me whatever toys I needed to keep the kids entertained. And we would have this great big ball and we would play big ball kickball. And these were kids that did not, some of these kids did not like, or they loved it because it was not normal. It was like, we play big ball kickball. What's that? It just like taking something that's not normal and making it a normalcy. Or the other thing, dodgeball. We played dodgeball. We were one of the few schools left allowed to, but my kids also knew that if you hit anybody in the face, you're done. Like, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
So it's learning. The children, you have to earn their trust, and reiterate it's okay to have fun and still grow up.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate the most is watching the light bulb go off. It sometimes the seventh and eighth graders would go by and they would see the younger kids playing a simple game like a tag game where I would have these spots thrown all over the gymnasium, and not everybody had a spot, so it became a pushing game, right? So
Hmm.
you had to get on that spot like musical chair before someone else did. And my seventh and eighth graders would be scheduled to play basketball that day. And they're like, Mrs. D, are we playing that? I'm like, no, that's for a fourth grader. But we want to play that. When you take a 13, 14-year-old child that still wants to be a child, you run with that. And I would say to the principal, they want to play that game. And she's like, well, then let them. And I would let them. And that's to say, like, it's okay to have fun, you
Yeah.
know?
You're
Life
only
is,
young once.
you are. And I would tell them that. I'm like, you hit 18, you are paying taxes the rest of your life. Right now, you don't have to. You know?
Be blessed.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
do your students know about your wrestling background?
Yes. So, um, even the people at my facility at Planet know because my bosses are very proud. Um, they will tell them anytime they're like, oh yeah, and we have a Hall of Famer, Heidi Lee Morgan. She's in 4 WWE encyclopedias. I mean, they go down the whole plethora. She's on Monday Night Raw 2020 Game Boy, which I didn't know. It was because my bosses, they told me. They're like, we were playing, you were in a game, you were wrestling Sherry Tom. Like, what are you even
2K
talking
or
about?
whatever the games are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, so my students just got the biggest kick out of that. They got and then they would Google it, and then they would see, they're like, Mrs. D, I watched your steel cage match. And I'm like, that's right. Remember that.
I mean, that's gotta feel good. And also, when you go to these signings and you see fans that remember you from back in the day, it's gotta feel good inside knowing that you made a positive impact on these people's lives.
Absolutely does. And that is the end reward for me. Um, I think of the movie Troy. I think of the movie Troy um, with oh God, he was married to Angela
Brad
Jolie.
Pitt.
Brad Pitt, with Brad Pitt, right? So he was Achilles, right? And he had made a statement that some kid said something, he says, and that's why you won't be remembered. And that's very harsh.
Hmm.
Like, you're thinking, well, dad, that's really mean. And you think to yourself, I just always felt within my heart, I know I need to be doing something. And I know what I'm doing with my life is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I know I'm on the right page. And it's just how many people God wants me to work with, right? So as you go through your career or whatever you're doing in your life, and are you making a difference? Is this what? And like I said, you know I knew I had the opportunity for Alundra and I to be tag champions, but I also was told I wouldn't have a baby. And I had to take a chance on my heart and what I felt like was the best thing for me to do. And that was to have my baby. And I'm grateful I did. And then you think all these thoughts go through your head. Well, did I do the right thing? Did I do this? Did I make it difference in the sport? And then when you see or you're invited, the most humbling thing for me is, and the epiphany that I had last August was when I went to North Carolina for the WrestleCon there. The epiphany I had running into Mick Foley and Judy Martin, Leilani Kai, and Susan Green and them, and we're talking, and Misty herself, and we're gibby gabbing. Like I said, we're just talking. I might not have retired with a WWE title, or they might not have inducted me. But I will always, forever be the last of the Mohicans of Mola that no one will ever be able to take away. And I will always be remembered for the first Monday Night Women's Championship match. And whether I won or not is irrelevant. I will always be part of that history. And that's it's a beautiful thing to know that you left some type of trail, right?
Hmm.
Even if you don't have the big mansion, or you don't have the belt, or you don't have the Hall of Fame ring, uh, you still make a difference. And that's humbling. And that's very, very, it's very honor. It's an honor, and it's very, very humbling for me.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you deserve to be acknowledged and respected by your peers and the students that you've helped out over the years. Um, what is it about giving back that gives you the most joy?
I think uh, when I see the person's eyes sparkle, one of the greatest things, I'll use my Friday class as an example. I have a Friday, I love my Fridays. I have, it's called the 30-minute circuit room, and it's 20 pieces of equipment. 10 are weight training, 10 are cardio. And that class, you can only take 20 people because that's all it holds. And my
Hmm.
classes are 30
Hmm.
minutes long. And I average 16 to 20 senior citizens come in. When you have senior citizens that were given prognosis and diagnoses that they will not ever be able to do X, Y, and Z, and they come to me and they're like, "Can you?" I said, "Listen, I'm not God, and neither's your doctor. All we can do is just try. And if you show up, I'm gonna show up." And when I see these people being able to move, and the one woman, her sister called her, and she literally turned her head, and her sister Rosemary says, "Oh my god, Maribel, you just turned your head." Well, Maribel was told she could never ever turn her head ever again. She'd have to like literally turn her whole upper body. She started crying, and then five other people start crying because they're feeling the emotion. And then I wanted to cry because I'm like, that's what, it's just that knowing that you're doing something positive to make somebody's day. And
Hmm.
that brings me pure joy. I mean, it really does when I see that I actually made someone smile. or feel good about themselves, because I don't think anybody should be shamed, you know?
No. Definitely helps to put a smile on someone's face, make their day, and pay it forward. That's all we can do as humans.
Yeah.
Heidi, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. I want to say thank you for coming on to the show. It means a lot to me, to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media? Do you have any things you want to plug and promote? Feel free.
Sure, my Woman Encourage Woman talk show live every Sunday evening on WVLT 92.1. You can just type in my name, Heidi Lee, HEIDILEE, Morgan, MORGAN, D. Bartolomeus. I kept my marriage name, DE, capital B. ARTOLOMEIS. I do have 3 accounts, but I don't really go to my wrestling page much. So you can go to my personal page or my Woman Encouraging Woman, which is spelled WOMAN, encouraging WOMAN, is my page that they can go and friend or follow. And I share stuff all the time.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Heidi, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad we did this. And you have a blessed evening.
Absolutely. You do the same.
Peace
Take
out.
care. Bye-bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.